v.h.s.x? What do you mean?
Alright everybody, welcome back to a brand new video. Today I wanted to talk about a video from Scott Jund where he talks about every killer perk is a slowdown. I've completely disagreed with the points that he was making, but let's get into the topic. So one of the first points he makes is he says that people are complaining about the fast gens because they aren't playing well. So in other words, you're just complaining about the gen speed because of a skill issue. Objectively incorrect. We already know that much. I mean, anybody who's been playing killer extensively, you already understand how this works. Because like you're playing badly, of course you're going to end up having a rough time, but that doesn't also necessarily mean that every single person who's talking about the gen speed being crazy is also just bad at the game. You know, like you can still be also good at the game and still point out like, you know, there is a bit of a gen speed problem. Like, why are we losing a gen under, like, when I knock them down in 10 seconds? Like, this isn't ridiculous, you know? And that is like mainly my point, is that we're already starting off the bat trying to, you know, which I understand, like there are people that genuinely do complain about the gen speed where they actively just didn't play well. They're running their quad slowdown like he's mentioning in the video, and that makes sense, right? That's not the entire encompassing blanket statement that covers everybody's opinion, right? So then he mentions that those people, and for anybody who complains about the gen speed, they just need to try different builds. They need to just use 2 slowdowns instead and 2 information perks. And you know, obviously the problem really with that is that, you know, that doesn't necessarily apply to all the killers. You know what I mean? Like the lowest tiers usually have to run at least 3 minimum. You know, if you're trying to win your games, you know, you need to run something for end game, or you need to run something that's going to help you out throughout the match instead. Objectively. And maybe if you're playing like a higher tier, like an A tier, you know, like a Wraith or a Vecna or something like that, maybe you'd be able to get away with like 2 slowdowns, or even 1. Maybe you can go that far if you are trying to win your games, of course. Now he does mention, you know, best slowdown is downing survivors, but that is obvious. We already kind of know that information. And he says that, which is the key point that really made me want to make this video. He says that that behavior is nerfing the slowdowns because survivors don't want to go against slowdown. Now, if we take a look at, you know, just the definition of what slowdown is in this game, the slowdown is there so that we can slow the game down, right? I mean, that's what it's for, right? We're trying to slow down their objective. And what does that mean? Obviously, right? And this applies to survivors as well. When you're playing a survivor, what is your objective, right? You need to do the gens, and you need to buy your teammates time so that they can do those gens. So what do they bring? They will bring meta perks such as Lithe, Balanced Landing, Decisive Dead Hard, whatever perk that they can use to extend their chases as long as possible, right? So they'll use Balanced Landing, they'll have Dead Hard or Lithe or Dramaturgy Finesse, like things like that to avoid taking hits, things like that to avoid you know, dying quickly, right? Because that's what the whole point of a perk to slow down the other side's objective is for, right? So the same side of the coin, you look at killer, what is their slowdowns? They have stuff for gen speed, they have stuff for door opening, they have stuff for the like just stopping progress on the gens, right? Like you have stuff that blocks the gen so you can't touch it and actually progress it. Those are things that both sides have in order to slow the game down, in order to actually get the game to be longer than 5 minutes, right? Because without any slowdown, you're probably going to see a literal 5-minute game. I don't think that the balancing should be based around survivor complaining. Survivor bitching has always been the main factor for things getting nerfed, things getting gutted, things getting destroyed on the killer side. And I don't think that it's been doing well, right, for the game. At least in my opinion, I don't believe that them focusing on the survivor complaining has really been doing well for the game, I'd say. As we can look at the you look at the history already, as you can see here. The recent changes we've even had with the healing meta and stuff like that has always been a massive problem, right? And I've even spoken about this in a previous video with JC Glitch Master, talking about how the game has gotten harder. I've spoken about this with other videos that have also spoken about the game being harder, and even more so, like, speaking about how the game is leaning very survivor, you know what I mean? It's very survivor leaning in a lot of ways. Not to create an us versus them narrative, but just to show, like, there is a lot of changes that are leaning into that side that make it a lot easier for them to play the game, and therefore makes it a lot harder to even want to play killer or even enjoy playing killer. And then it ends up leading to the cycle where the killer players that do play are now just going to stick to the strongest that they can, because why would they ever want to play Ghostface? Why would they ever want to play Pig? Why would they ever want to play anybody who's struggles in a chase? Because if they, for whatever reason, take longer than 10 seconds to down anybody, they're gonna have a hard time. So he talks about, like, chasing and downing is the main way to slow the game down and stuff like that. And that's an obvious point. I mean, we already know that, but the problem is either it's more difficult to do so because of the different changes we've received lately. I mean, we've seen the healing changes, which objectively is insane, right? They already have shown us that the healing changes are ridiculous. They already shown us that if we injure anybody, like, we even put them on a hook for whatever reason, they're most likely going to just be instantly healed again, right? Top it off with map design, top it off with gen speed. Like, you need characters that move quickly. So chasing and downing is just a blanket statement that only applies to those strong killers. I mean, you know, you're not really gonna say the same thing about a Ghostface, right? Like, he's gonna have to run multiple slowdowns, or at least something to help him out in his chase, because he's pretty terrible at that, right? So it's like, with this type of situation, like, what incentive do you think that killer players are gonna have? Like, they're only going to just play the high tiers at that point if they don't want to get steamrolled and lose every game. And he was really saying that the bar going up and down for the gens is what's making these survivors complain and crash out, and they don't want to have to go up against that and stuff. Like, I gotta say, like, I don't think that's really relevant, right? Because on the same side of the coin, like, I'm pretty sure killers don't want to go against insta heals, and they don't want to go up against quick gens, 5-minute games, like second chance perks and things like that. But those things also are only buffed at that point, you know? They're never changed for the better, right? For the health of the game, they're never changed. I mean, I even spoke about Vigil, and I have yet to talk about Deja Vu, but I will. I have a couple of ideas on how to fix Deja Vu as well, because I think it's a ridiculous perk at this point. And he does finally mention that. He says this is why we're getting the strong killers, because they want to try to shift the game away from slowdown. Now, part of that is true, right? Like, we're seeing that with a lot of killers, that they're trying to make them a lot quicker. They're trying to move a little bit away from stealth, and they're trying to move in toward a direction where killers are actually able to keep up in a lot of ways. But I would have to say that I don't entirely agree with the idea. If they really were focused on doing that, they would address the core issue, which is the gen speed, which is the healing speed, which is, like, different things that they can do at rapid rates. You know, like, they would rework the toolboxes, they would rework the gen speed stacking, rework the toolboxes, they would rework a lot of these things so that it's actually more interesting to go up against, more healthy for the game. They wouldn't, honestly, I don't even think they would be nerfing Franklins if that was the case, right? But even with a nerf to Franklins, and even with the other things that we've seen here, including healing speed and stuff like that, all going into a direction where it's just not good. Like, it's very anti-low tier killer as well and stuff like that. Not great. So I have to completely disagree with a lot of the points here. Like, I don't think that the survivor complaining and bitching about Slowdown even comes close to what we've seen on the survivor side, like what they're capable of doing, what they're capable of getting away with in the meta that we have nowadays. I think it's insane, right? And the problem is that obviously we have a very big, massive issue with balancing, right? Because there's so many, like this game is on such a weird spectrum of skill level. It's a weird spectrum on sort of like play styles and things like that. And the only thing that I think behavior at least has a bit of a grasp on how to balance is trying to shift the game in that direction, where it's about making the characters, you know, more quick, being able to actually move around the map and actually do those things. Because looping objectively wasn't even a thing that they had planned when they started this game. Like, this is not like that. It was something that the community had kind of sort of developed, right? So that I can agree with, and that is obviously something that makes sense, but I wouldn't even say that even Springtrap was that strong to be even able to make that comparison. But that's the video for today. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Let me know your thoughts in the comments section if you agree or disagree. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one.